King's Corner. I hope you all are having a terrific Tuesday. Last night had some amazing football, and I'm going to recap that today. Wow. Let me just begin with it's official. The Joe Judge era has begun in New York. And even though the Giants lost last night, I know I predicted them to win, but remember, I wanted to see how Big Ben looked. And may I say, Ben's back. But I'll talk about Pittsburgh later. The Giants looked disciplined. They had a couple false starts. They had a couple penalties. But for the first time, and I would say since the Tom Coughlin era, the Giants look to have a head coach. You could tell what the culture is going to become. They're going to be very strict and they're going to be very disciplined. Now, people are ridiculing the Giants' O-line today. They deserve it. Daniel Jones played bad. But let me just remind you guys, if Daniel Jones doesn't turn the ball over twice, that game's a lot closer than what it is. And do I think Daniel Jones will make those turnovers every week? No, because I think Saquon's going to be more involved every week. Not everybody has a Steelers-type defense. Actually, majority of the league doesn't have that type of defense. And if you take away those two picks, Daniel Jones had a terrific night. He looked very, very efficient. He knew what he was doing. I mean, last year when you look at the stats, Daniel Jones really struggled against zone coverage. Last night, he was dotting the Steelers up in zone coverage. Whenever the Steelers would run a cover 3 or a cover 2, Daniel knew right where to put it. I mean, you could see why the Giants fans call him Danny Dimes. He was throwing some dimes. That touchdown pass to Darius Slayton, the first one. Wow. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, wow. That was beautiful. Jason Garrett that was his best play call of the night. That play action pass into a deep shot right after the pass interference on Evan Ingram. You could tell Jason Garrett was a little rusty as an offensive coordinator. I think the later on we get in the year, you're going to see Jason Garrett becomes more efficient, remembers how to do the job. He's going to become more up to newer terms. I mean, you got to remember, this is the first time Jason Garrett has called plays since 2011. But you could tell Joe Judge knew what he was doing as a coach. Now, even though the Giants' defense didn't play amazing, as you would say, they were 20 times better than what they were last year. Lorenzo Carter looks to be a monster. Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence look like they've improved from last year. James Bradbury, even though he didn't have the greatest game, but you can see why he was paid. He's young and he's going to develop. And once Logan Ryan gets into and learns this defense, those are two good corners. James Bradbury to me is more of a number 2, not a number 1 corner. But the Giants, when the Giants are going to become very dangerous this year, is going to be later November, early December. The reason that is, they're going to become more accustomed to the playbook. Joe Judge is going to know life in the NFL a little better. But the most important thing, they get Xavier McKinney back. And I know he's just a rookie. But when the Giants picked him up in the second round, that was a steal. Dave Gettleman has had three very underrated drafts. I don't know how to say it other than that man knows how to draft. Everybody ridiculed him, including myself, for drafting Daniel Jones. Now, even last night wasn't the best example to say, hey, look, Daniel Jones, great player, but he's a good player. When you got to remember, 2 years, 2 different offense coordinators. This is pretty much his second rookie year. Because he's learning a new offense. He didn't have a full offseason to learn it. Hopefully the Mara owners realize, hey, we got to keep Judge here for a while, give him a chance. Next year, if Joe Judge is still the coach, Jason Garrett's still the offensive coordinator, and that defense under Graham, their defense coordinator, wow. He knew what he was doing. Now, Mike Tomlin, the Steelers adjusted well. They knew how to attack it later on in the ballgame, but early on, they didn't know what was coming at them. Big Ben was getting on the ground, and I was actually a little afraid for Big Ben at about, I want to say it was the 3:10 mark of the third quarter. Big Ben got tackled, wasn't sacked, but he started holding his knee. I thought that was going to be a problem, but then later on in the second quarter, he showed it wasn't by taking a huge run for a first down. But that first game, very entertaining. I was wrong on that one. 21-17 is what I said. It was 26-16 Steelers. But let me move on. So I was almost exactly correct on the Titans game. I said 17-15 Titans. The Titans won 16-14. I said it was going to be a very sloppy game, but nobody told me. Even though I said Drew Lock has potential to be an MVP candidate, because Cortland Sutton was out, I wasn't expecting him to look like it. But wow. When that touchdown throw he had to Noah Fant, and may I first say, Noah Fant looks like he's a beast. But that first touchdown pass to Fant, if any quarterback tries that, they're getting screamed at. Even though it was a touchdown, he probably still got. I mean, Vic Fangio was probably like Mike Holmgren when he was coaching Brett Favre. No, 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 yes. And the reason that was, you're not supposed to run to your right and then throw cross body. That's an idiotic throw. But Drew Lock made it. And after last night, I'm starting to say, hey, John Elway, you drafted a quarterback well. And I must also say that Denver's defense didn't play the best, and they didn't really hold that team to 16 points. I know what the scoreboard says, but Steven Gostkowski left 10 points on the board. I don't know what it is outside of this game. How does Bill Belichick always know when to cut somebody at the right time? He cut Brady. Well, he let Brady go at about the right time. He let Steven Gostkowski go at the perfect time. Last night, Steven Gostkowski, I know he made the game winner, but if I'm Tennessee, I don't think I'm waking up and seeing rainbows. I'm waking up and I'm seeing darkness, because if he keeps missing like that, he's going to lose you guys some games. Jerry Jeudy made me look right again. He is the best receiver in this draft class. His route running. I know he had a drop early, but that was probably because of jitters, but his first catch in the NFL was pretty much him in a nutshell. He stopped on a dime, caught the pass. I mean, wow, was that a beautiful route. Derrick Henry, what can I say? It's Derrick Henry. When you're 6'5", 280, and running like he does, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But yeah, those were the Monday night games. They were pretty good. But as you could see, all four teams, except maybe the Steelers, were a little rusty. They needed to get out and going. Once they did, it was a very fun game to watch. Both games were very entertaining. But yeah, that's how week one ended. And I'm not going to lie, week one ended greatly. Thank God football's back. You're going to hear me say that a million times because it's true. I'm loving that it's back. But let me move on to what we're going to see tonight in the NBA. So as of right now, we have the Heat and the Celtics playing. I'm not really going to predict this game. I'm going to sort of predict how this series is going to go. It's going to be a 7-game series. The Heat and Celtics are just very similar teams. They're very like each other, very well coached, very disciplined. The only difference is Celtics might have a little more firepower. But when you look at how the Heat play, they play like the old East, like the 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s East. Very physical. And Jason Tatum might want to watch out. He might get beaten up. Kemba Walker might get beaten up. Because even though the Heat don't have a lot of star power, they're not very well-known people outside of Jimmy Butler. You know what they do have that not a lot of teams have? They have a lot of grit. I'm predicting this series to go to 7. I'd probably say Celtics are going to irk this out just because they are the Celtics. But it's going to be a very fun series to watch. But let me talk about who I think is winning this game tonight between the Clippers and Nuggets. And I keep hearing people all day say, Nuggets are going to lose. Nuggets are going to lose. Clippers are going to wake up. Haven't we been saying that for about 13 games now into the postseason? 12 games the Clippers have played. I've yet to see one game where I'm like, wow, the Clippers dominated from start to finish. And people keep saying, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I just don't see it. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. The Clippers aren't the team I see people acclaim them to be. Kawhi's not that guy. Kawhi can get a stop sometimes, but this series, Jamal Murray, when he's on Kawhi, has kind of cooked him. And the best player in this series, I don't want to hear it was Kawhi. I don't want to hear it was Paul George. I don't want to hear it was Jamal Murray. You could argue Michael Porter Jr. at times, But the player I'd say the most, Nikola Jokic, he's a problem. Um, he started using a new move in the Clipper series that we've never really seen him use, and that was that Dirk Nowitzki kind of fadeaway, the one-legged fadeaway, and he was hitting it pretty good. Now nowhere close to Dirk, but that's just because that was Dirk's shot. His three-pointers he has one of those rainbow threes, like it has to hit nothing but nylon, nothing but net, and it usually does. But if the Clippers allow the Nuggets to shoot like they have the last two games, they're screwed. In the last two fourth quarters, the Clippers have allowed the Nuggets to shoot 14 of 18 from the three-point line. When you're shooting that good from downtown, there's no way you're winning that game. If this is a close game tonight, the Clippers are losing. It's a blowout. The only way I see the Clippers winning if it's a blowout. And to be truthful with you, I just don't see it because a lot of players on this Clippers team don't have experience in a Game 7. But this Nuggets team does. Last year into this year, they've had 4 Game 7s, including this one. This is their 4th. So what am I trying to say? I got the Nuggets winning. I'm going to say it's going to be a very offensive game, like 115, 112. Nuggets win. I could see the Clippers winning. They might shock. It wouldn't really shock me. But how could you not go with the hot hand? And if the Clippers blow this 3-1 deficit, Kawhi's legacy is going to take a bump. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched the show The Herd with Colin Cowherd, but he was saying he's been saying the last couple of weeks if Kawhi wins the title, he's a top 5 player. Nowhere close. I'll give you top 40 player of all time. Top 5? No. I got to see Kawhi do much more. He didn't beat the Warriors. He beat a beat-up Warriors. If he went against the same Warriors LeBron had to go against for 4 years, he wouldn't have won one game. He would have gotten swept. But yeah, those are my predictions for tonight. And to end the show, I'm adding a new category again, and these are going to be coming out every Tuesday, and they're called King's Royalty. What this is I'm going to start saying my 5 best teams in the league. Now, they are going to change from week to week, but let me start out with number 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last night, they proved me wrong. I said 38-year-old quarterbacks were horrible. They weren't playing very well, and they weren't up to this point, but I was wrong on Big Ben. He's came back, and I'm not going to lie to you, he looks a little better than he did before he got hurt. He looks in better shape. He looks back to Big Ben. He had a little more zip on that ball. The deep pass was very effective for him. And another thing that scared me, that defense, we already knew what that was. But you know who else came back last night? Juju Smith-Schuster. Whew. And I know that was just against the Giants, but who cares? When you are playing opening week, and you saw in the first quarter, the Steelers came out, they were a little rusty. But once they picked up what the Giants were doing, the Giants stood no chance. Big Ben was picking them apart, as a veteran quarterback should. But Big Ben looked good. He looked darn good. If I'm in that division, I'm scared. But let me move on to number 4, the Green Bay Packers. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. Aaron Rodgers. Wow. Pro Football Focus comes out, and they're like, he's declining. He's on the decline. He's not on the decline, ladies and gentlemen. Aaron Rodgers is back, and I would argue the best since 2016, 2015. I mean, if he wins the MVP this year, it wouldn't shock me the way he played on Sunday. The Vikings had no answer. No answer. Now, granted, the Vikings defense has gotten a little worse, and it was Mike Zimmer's first game with this new defense, but whew. Aaron Rodgers is a problem. Devontae Adams is a problem. And they didn't even utilize Aaron Jones yet. Imagine how the Packers are going to look when their defense gets back in sync. And Aaron Jones gets used more. That's a scary team right there. Number 3, I got the Seattle Seahawks. Thank God Pete Carroll has finally grew a brain. Keep saying that. Just thank God. Thank God, thank God, thank God. For some reason, the past 8 years, Pete Carroll keeps saying, Russell Wilson, we're just going to run the ball all game. And we'll let you bail us out in the 4th. Well, for the first time in Russell Wilson's career, Pete Carroll put the game in Russell Wilson's hands from the beginning. And what do we see? Arguably the best quarterback performance of the weekend. I might even say it was the best. 31 of 35. He led the team in passing yards, passing touchdowns, rushing yards. And in that game, he became the second player in NFL history to get to 30,000 career passing yards, 4,000 career rushing yards. And it's crazy that the player that also did that's the player that Russell Wilson reminds me of, Steve Young. Russell Wilson is the right-handed Steve Young. And it shows. He's very efficient. He knows what he's doing. And not only do you have Russell Wilson playing like this, but he arguably has one of the best receiving corps. DK, Tyler Lockett, Josh Gordon when he gets back. Whew, that's a scary team. I don't want to see them. Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams. When Jamal Adams gets a hold of that playbook and he understands it from top to bottom, watch out, NFC West. That's the team winning your division. At number 2, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. I already said everything I need to say about them on Friday. Pat Mahomes went from the highlight reel to Mr. Efficient and a little bit of the highlight reel. Even though he was 24 or 32, he really should have been 27 or 32. Aldrick Robinson, a.k.a. Aldrick Aguilar. That defense looked pretty good. Now, even though they allowed some points at the end to the Texans, I think it was kind of because they let their foot off the gas. But Kansas City, watch out. They have a chance at repeating if they play like that every week. Andy Reid had his team prepared. But number 1, I think you all know who I'm having. It's Baltimore. To me, it's not necessarily close. I know I said Kansas City can repeat, but nobody looked as dominant as Baltimore. Did you see what they did to that Cleveland team? And I know, it's just Cleveland. Everyone's going to say, it's just Cleveland. I guarantee Cleveland won't be held to just 6 points for the rest of the year. Maybe by Baltimore again, but I doubt it even then. Baltimore destroyed Cleveland. Mopped the floor with them. They made a crime scene, cleaned up the crime scene, and said goodbye to Cleveland all within 4 quarters. Lamar Jackson looked better. Their receiving corps looked better. Their defense looked way better. I'm not going to lie to you. The way I saw those Ravens play, their defense is kind of built to stop one person and actually 2 people and 2 people only. One's Pat Mahomes and 2's Derrick Henry. They said, we're not going to allow a running back to beat us again. Not happening. But we gotta wait to see what happens if they get to play him again. But those Ravens, man, they're scary. So to recap my Kings royalty this week, I got the Steelers at 5, Packers at 4, Seattle at 3, Kansas City at 2, and Baltimore at 1. Thanks for watching this episode of Kings Corner. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.